Hey everybody, Steve at Benford Guitars here again. I thought I'd walk you through how I make a fretboard. So you might be wondering, what the heck is this thing right here? This is a miter box for cutting fretboard slots. And if you look here, you've got some guides here, and what those are for is I use this Japanese saw, and it's got a stop block on the top of it. So what happens is this gets inserted right in here, and then you cut your fret slots like this. That's used in conjunction with this dude here, which is a big metal template, and it's for two scale lengths, the Fender 25.5 and say a PRS 25-inch scale. And you'll notice it's got all these little notches in it, and what happens is I don't know if you're going to be able to pick this up or not, but there's a little guide pin right here. And what happens is you take your fretboard here, got a fretboard blank. There's a center line scribed on the template here, and that gets transferred over to this blank. And what happens is this gets double stick taped down. And then what happens is you slide it in, and you put this guide pin right on the notch. And then I have these clamps that just go boom, boom, hold it down in place. Take the fret saw, shoo, 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 do a slot, unlock it, you lift it up, move it to the next pin, stick it down, lock, lock, Japanese saw, shoo, 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 and it makes that noise when you do it too. So then you go all the way up and do however many frets you want. In this particular case, for this guitar, it's going to be 22. So I've already gone ahead and done that, and here is the product of all the sawing. So you can kind of see here, I've got my center line laid out, and then these lines here are actually the taper of the fretboard as it goes all the way up. This blank is oversized, it's actually square, so that'll have to be tapered. Got all my fret markers laid out here. So then what happens after I do that is, depending on how I feel, I'll either cut the taper or I'll do the radius. But in this case, I'm probably going to cut the taper first and then do the radius. But before I do the radius, I got to do the inlays. So let me show you this guy over here. This is a neck template that I made. It's, you know, it's got my nut width here and fingerboard end here, and what happens is this fretboard will get double stick taped down to it on the center lines, and then I'll use the same exact bit that I showed you guys the other day with the body bearing, and it'll just follow this template exactly. So obviously, you know, that's that, and then I'll make the neck out of this same template, and then back behind here, here's my 3-a-side headstock shape, and that'll be used to make my headstock as well. And this is just for the angled back necks. If I'm going to do more of a 6-in-line version, I have a full template that I made with my headstock shape, the tuner holes, and the entire neck, and I can just slap that onto a blank and cut around it and route it exactly like the other body that you saw. So what happens is, I'll come over here, let's magically pretend I've got all the inlays done. I've got this jig that I made up. It's basically a U-channel with a center line going all the way down it, and what happens is this gets double stick taped in there. Use a lot of double stick tape around here on the center line, and then I have these radius blocks. This is a 12-inch radius, which is probably the one I'm going to be using. It's got sandpaper, double stick tape to it, and the width of my miter box here, or I don't know if it's called a miter box, but guide box, this rides right in it. And then what will happen is I'll just go back and forth like this, and it'll sand the radius in it. It's pretty slow and tedious work, but you know, I use a pretty heavy grit sandpaper to start with, and so it takes pretty good care of that. So we do have a radius jig we can use with a router. I haven't really put that to test yet. I'm not terribly confident in it right now, and that's not that it doesn't work, it's just I haven't used it, so now is not the time to experiment. So let's go back over here. So before I do that, like I said, I'm going to do the inlays. And this particular guitar is going to have some pearloid sail inlays. And I've made those today. And here they are, getting laid out on here. Bam, and then there's one more. Bam. So there they are. That's kind of what they're gonna look like. So the question that has been posed by me to the customer is, do we want to put one on the first fret or not? You know, most standard guitars don't have it. A lot of Gibsons do. They have like a block inlay there or something. You know, stuff like Fender stuff starts at the third. A lot of my guitars start at the third, but I have done them up here. So, you know, I've got it like that, and I went ahead and made one up just in case we decided to do it. And so that's going to go in there like that. So that should be pretty cool. So what will happen is I'm going to do another video on how I do these inlays, and it's a pretty straightforward process. It's fairly labor intensive because I'm not a robot and can't hit start and have it come down and program and route it all out and perfectly. So I'll show you how I go about doing that, but that's a basic outline of how I cut my fingerboard slots and how a fingerboard gets made. And let me see what's coming up next. Now we'll talk about the neck for this guitar. It's going to be a one-piece maple neck with actually a scarf joint. So it'll have I believe like a 12-degree tilt back headstock, 3 aside, and this will get glued on there, this fretboard I just showed you. It's pretty cool. There it is back here so far. Kind of show you. Here's the neck with it cut. It's a really killer piece of darker quilted maple. I've been hoarding it, but I decided to let it go for this guitar. And that's about it. So visit me at benfordguitars.com. Check out the blog. I'll have more pictures of this and maybe a little bit better explanation of what I did. And feel free to leave comments on YouTube or the Facebook page if this is where you saw it. Thanks.